on a little secret. Secret that I'm proud of. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I am a TNA Impact Wrestling fan, and I know a lot of you guys tuning in to this OneWrestling.com One Wrestling video. Andre Corbeil, Impact Wrestling Review, are proud TNA wrestling fans too. Now it's July 31st, everybody. It's 2014. It's time for your TNA Destination X Impact Wrestling Review from New York City's Manhattan Center. As we had 3 triple threat matches tonight, a tag team dream match, yes, and the Destroyer Bobby Lashley attempting to stop the greatest man who ever lived after cashing in on option C. Now we open up the show with Team Dixie in the ring, and I'm going to keep this short, sweet, brief, in a nutshell, as she basically says that she's given the fans of wrestling the true ECW. Now EC3 grabs the mic and tells the fans that every time you chant ECW, what you're really doing is you're chanting for Snitsky, you're chanting for Rhino, and you're chanting for Big Zeke, as EC3 basically challenges Team 3D, and yes, the innovator of violence, Tommy Dreamer, to an all-out war, and he vows that Dixie will not go through a table to We Want Tables, We Want Table chants from the New York crowd. We then get a dream match for the ages, as the Hardys came out to a huge pop, as did the Wolves as well. Great crowd here in New York, and this was amazing from start to finish, as the Hardys controlled earlier on in the match with frequent tags and cutting off the ring like all seasoned great tag teams do. But the tide turns midway through, well, actually not even midway through, and the Wolves show why that they're considered the best tag team in the world to This Is Awesome chants. Now Jeff hits a twisting corkscrew to the outside, as we had a wicked back and forth action match, lock, stocked, and loaded here, including a sick double submission by the Wolves smack dab in the center of the ring, and a double foot stomp that Hardy actually surprisingly kicks out from. And on that note, Davey kicked out of a twist of fate as well. Now I could go on and on, wrestling fans, about how epic this match was, how awesome this match was, and how both teams laid it all on the line tonight, as the Wolves pick up the big win here over the legendary Hardys. And then after the match, what do? A show of sportsmanship, a show of respect, and a show of honor. Yes, as both teams basically hail and respect each other to This Is Awesome chants. Now, good way to start off, and I'm very, very, very impressed up until this point. Now we get a low-key reel, and I thoroughly enjoyed this, as I've always kind of been a mark for low-key and triple X for that matter. Y'all remember? Yeah. The Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, low-key, and prime time, Elix Skipper, as we had our first 3-way for the #1 contenderships happening throughout the night for the vacant X Division title, as DJZ and low-key, yes, they had their spots here in the match, and I have to say that I miss these stiff kicks from Low-Key and that stiff style. I've always loved how realistic Low-Key is within his in-ring talent, his prowess within his moveset. Now we ended up with an octopus move, a submission from Manik, a vicious double knee crush from Zema Ion at one point, and a sick round kick from Low-Key, followed up by a double foot stomp prelude to his crusher finisher, and the 1, 2, 3 with Manik eating the pin as Low-Key moves on in a good match. Then we had part 2 of this triple threat saga, as Brian Cage, Sanada, and Crazy Steve competed to advance as well, and I could watch Rebel's entrance on loop all night long, but shh, I digress. And just like I said in my predictions here on One Wrestling, Brian Cage would come in and be booked very, very strong here, and he certainly did, as he charged out of the gate like an animal. Yes, we had a funny spot in the middle of this match. Yes, a pose down between Crazy Steve and Cage. Now, Steve swerved him to no avail, no effect, as both Sanada and Crazy Steve were actually picked up, put on Cage's shoulders, and at the same time he drives them both down. Now Sanada is taken out into the corner later on by Steve, but he basically gets back in the action shortly after that, as Steve had just put down Brian Cage, and what does Sanada do? Yes, he hits his pinning suplex combo and advances, making me 3 for 3 on my predictions. Yes, so far in the night. We then get a cool Austin Aries, a cool Bobby Roode moment backstage, talking like friends do, as Bobby Roode, in a nutshell, basically encourages him to beat the Destroyer tonight in the main event for the World Heavyweight Championship. And they also talked about how great it would be to see the former tag team mates compete again for that TNA World Heavyweight Championship if Austin Aries was able to basically pull off the win tonight. And we're going to have to wait for the main event before I roll into that, so I digress. And then we get a retort from Dreamer, from Bully Ray, and from Demon. Hey Demon! Oh my brother, textify. Anyway, they all head to the ring, and man, the New York crowd was hot tonight as Dreamer puts over the roster like a champ here. He calls out Team Dixie, who basically want to fight and have this war next week, as Bully cuts him off and says nobody wants that, and reminds them, yes, basically the young Carter, where they are. He says, this is New York and you're gonna die. And says nobody starts a riot like I do. So this was great. Now he calls the match an 8-man all-weapons match for next week. Now this war's gonna be great, and Ethan vows that Dixie's not going to go through a table, and Bully vows that she will. So that'll be very, very exciting next week. And will Dixie Carter go through a table? I digress. Then we panned into Angle and Joe backstage, and the audio was turned way down for this, so you couldn't hear what they were saying, basically ending up shaking hands backstage, coming to some sort of agreement. Now, what would this agreement be? Yes, Samoa Joe is now officially back on the X Division roster, and I'm happy about this. We then follow that up. We have Angelina Love and the beautiful Velvet Sky as well, complaining about her not getting her rematch for the Knockouts Championship. Now she promises something in store for the fans next week, and we end up panning back into Joe, plugging the 6 sides, plugging the X Division, being reinvigorated with him on the roster, and I'm totally down for that. Comment below in this comment section on this interactive social media network and let Andre Corbeil know what you thought of this. And hey, I will interact with you, because I'm a knowledgeable, passionate wrestling fan, and I respect you guys for being knowledgeable, passionate wrestling fans too. So, rolling on, like I said, I'm totally down with this, and let's roll on with part 3, yes, of the Triple Threat Saga, to basically confirm who's next in line, the last person to qualify for next week's 3-way X Division Championship for the X Division title that's vacant now. Now we had Tigre Uno and the returning Homicide battle for the last spot against Joe. And speaking of him, yes, make sure to tune in to next week's Can-Am Wrestling show, because TNA fans, I've lined up a very, very special guest to join Big Ray and Andre Corbeil. That's Saturday, August 8th on the Can-Am Wrestling show, but shh, I digress. Now this was a stiff, hard-hitting match that saw Joe and Homicide with the bulk of the offense here, with Uno basically getting in some sweet in-between spots here. But I was kind of disappointed to not see, yes, my second favorite X Division finisher of all time, yes, the Gringo Killer from Homicide, but they only teased it. Anyway, I wish I would have seen it, but I wasn't too hurt about it. Joe hits the Muscle Buster on Homicide, yes, for the win here. The 1, 2, 3, and next week it's Sanada. It's Samoa Joe, and it's low-key for the X Division Championship. Now we then follow that up and pan into a strange Bram and Magnus segment, but it was all right. Now, we end up getting a hype video for the main event, and I couldn't wait to watch this, as the Champ's power game was on display here, and of course the quickness of when Austin Aries would be on display here. Inside the ring, outside the ring, and this is where the Champ gains control. Yes, outside the ring, as Austin Aries misses a leap off the top rope, and yes, he crashes to the floor. And I think Taz said it best, that Lashley was in beast mode here tonight. Now, Aries turned it around midway through with a sick offensive flurry, as we got a sick neck breaker, followed by a missile drop kick, and he actually hit the brainbuster on Bobby, and Bobby kicked out. I can't say it enough. Tough, credible champion. Now, let's move forward here. Aries misses a suicide dive to the outside, you know, his signature suicide dive, and Man, he was lucky to not crush his sternum like Bret Hart did back in the day. He hit freaking hard. But this was ultimately what led to the end of Austin Aries in the ring a moment after that, as Bobby Lashley hits that stiff spear in the ring, and the champion, yes, the Destroyer Bobby Lashley, gets the 1, gets the 2, gets the 3, and we pan out the end of this show with hashtag It Happens, as TNA basically plays the soundbite of what sounds like Dixie Carter going through a table and the crowd going nuts. So we end a very fun, a very exciting, and a very enjoyable TNA 2014 Destination X. And yes, again, TNA delivered tonight positivity in a sea of negativity. And like I said, be proud of being an Impact Wrestling fan. I know I am, and hey, I'm glad you are too. So thank you for tuning in right here at OneWrestling.com. One Wrestling Video, the home of the legend Bill Apter, who you can follow at Apter One Wrestling, the home of Big Ray, who you can follow at Big Ray Show, and the home of Andre Corbeil, then you can follow at Andre_Corbeil. Tune into my YouTube channel. Yes, Saturdays, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Big Ray and Andre Corbeil, and wrestling news, previews, predictions, reviews, Q&As. You know the score. I'm not even going to go through it. Now, you guys know that I'm all in this for one thing, because we're all in this for one thing. What's that, everybody? Wrestling. Destination X was great. Peace! And thanks for supporting the channel, y'all.